House will stand at ease until 10:30. The House will stand at ease until 10:30.
The hour for convening having arrived, all members of this house will please report to their seats. All members of the house will please report for duty. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell? All members of the House will please report to the floor. Take seats. We're about to have the morning roll call. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning. Let's try that one more time. Good morning. Better. Welcome to Crossover Day 2022. I can't wait. I don't know about y'all. I've just been anticipating all morning and last night. We're going to begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 22nd House District, Representative Wes Cantrell. Representative Cantrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. It's an incredible honor for me today to introduce our chaplain. I first met him at the age of 12 years old when my family started attending the First Baptist Church of Atlanta, where his father, Dr. Charles Stanley, had recently become the pastor. Our friendship grew in a rather strange way over the next few years as I dated his sister, and he went on one date with each of my three sisters. But he's been a great friend to me for all of my life. Pastor Andy Stanley, he founded the North Point Community Church in 1995. Today, North Point Ministries consists of 10 churches in the Atlanta area and a network of 180 churches around the globe that collectively serve over 200,000 people weekly. A survey of U.S. pastors identified Andy as one of the 10 most influential pastors in America. He's the author of more than 20 books, and his success reaches well beyond the Atlanta area, with over 10.5 million of his messages, leadership videos, YouTube videos, and podcasts being accessed each month. 10.5 million. The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, is famous for saying, "A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them." I've always thought of Andy Stanley as the Steve Jobs of pastors. He figured out how to build a church that people who had never been to church or had had a bad experience in church would want to attend. A lot of people didn't know they wanted to attend church until Andy created the unique model that is North Point Community Church. So it's my honor today to introduce you to Pastor Andy Stanley.
Wes, Wes told me y'all weren't allowed to clap in here, so I'll just imagine uproarious clapping after that fabulous introduction. Is that really a rule? That's a rule. All right, that's probably a good rule. We used to have that in church, and then somehow along the way we got over that. Anyway, I know I don't have I only have a few minutes, but Wes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, and it's so great to meet so many of you who I've known in the past, and it's good to reconnect. I love our state, and you love our state, and I don't want to live anywhere else, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. And I know I wasn't invited to give you advice, but I'm going to give you my advice anyway, and I want to say beforehand, I've never done what you've done. I couldn't do what you do, and so I probably don't know what I'm talking about, and you have permission to talk bad about me behind my back because I really am speaking into a vacuum because I really don't know daily the pressure that you live with and the responsibility that you have. But I do have some unsolicited advice. As you know, organizations and states are never better than their leadership, and that's why you're doing what you're doing. And when leadership is divided, things aren't amazing. And you're here because you want the state of Georgia to be so amazing that the other states in the union look at Georgia and go, my goodness, what in the world have they figured out that the rest of us can't seem to figure out? And the win is for Georgia to be amazing. And Georgia is wonderful, but maybe Georgia could be amazing. When leadership is divided, things aren't amazing. Things never go as good as they could. Disagreement is unavoidable. You've heard this before. Disagreement is unavoidable, but division is always a choice. And the state that figures that out is going to be amazing. Division creates complexity. Complexity creates inefficiency. Inefficiency creates uncertainty. Uncertainty drives people to their what's in it for me corners. Now, unfortunately, in your world, there are advantages to division. You can raise more money when things are divided. You can be sure that you politically speaking, somebody clapped at that. You're not supposed to clap in here. That's the only rule they told me. You can raise more money when people are divided and sure that the other group is out to get them. Politically speaking, fear of the other party is an asset. Division makes it easy to demonize and mischaracterize the other folks. So, unfortunately, where you sit, fear and demonization and disunity is to your advantage. What if we as a state decided we're not going to do that anymore? And you could decide that because unity is a decision. Disagreement is helpful and healthy, but disunity just makes things harder for everybody. You know that. So this is the negative part, okay? To those of you who pander to and foster division, you are terrible leaders, and let me tell you why. They're going to start clapping again in a minute, I'm afraid. Here's why I say that. If you need an enemy in order to lead, you're a poor leader. The way I say it to pastors all the time is, look, I say, hey, if you want to do something different, swim to the other side of the pool, but don't kick off the wall. If you have to kick off the wall to create enough momentum to get to where you want to go, then you're doing something wrong. What if we as the leaders in this state decided we're not going to kick off the wall anymore, that we don't need an enemy in order to win, and we don't need an enemy in order to lead, because that is extraordinary leadership. But the problem, the challenge is where you sit and with what you've been asked to do and what you feel the pressure to do. Have we ever seen it done that way? Have we ever seen somebody do something extraordinary politically in a state or for a country where they didn't kick off the wall and have to leverage off an enemy? What if you just decided, you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. This is something I learned from Jesus. Because I'm a pastor, so I need to talk about Jesus at least once. And here it is. Jesus says, this is important, just because somebody considers you their enemy, you do not have to return the favor. Just because, just because somebody considers you their enemy, you do not have to take your cues from your enemies and call them or treat them like an enemy. What if we just did that? So here's my advice, and I'll wrap this up real quick. I want you to resist what psychiatrists refer to as fundamental attribution error. Fundamental attribution error. I'd like for us to all just say that together because it's maybe the only thing we've learned today. Ready? Fundamental attribution error. Let me tell you what fundamental attribution error is in case you don't know. Fundamental attribution error is when I ascribe to you and to your behavior character issues, but when I do the same thing, I justify what I'm doing based on the fact that there were circumstantial issues. For example, when I'm late to work, it's because I was helping my wife and being a good husband and a good father, and there was an accident on Georgia 400. When you're late to work, I decide that you're just lazy, you don't care, that you're irresponsible, you're disorganized at home, and you're not really committed to the organization. That's what fundamental attribution error is. It is attributing to the other person character issues and motive issues instead of circumstantial issues. But then when we mess up and we stumble, we immediately excuse, what we've done because, things are busy, there's experiences going on, there's circumstances going on. In your world, it sounds like this: the corrupt Democrats and the racist Republicans. The corrupt Democrats, it's character. All of them are corrupt. The racist Republicans, they're all a bunch of racists. And that's not true. So what if in the state of Georgia, we just stop using that language? I mean, it may never catch on in any other state. It's certainly not going to catch on in Washington, D.C., but what if it caught on in the state of Georgia? We gave up with clearly something's wrong with these people. How can they say that? How can they support her? How can? Thanks to fundamental attribution error, we know the answer to the questions, and it's because, again, the Democrats are godless socialists and the Republicans are ignorant racists, right? Their actions and decisions couldn't possibly have anything to do with how they grew up, where they grew up, who they grew up around, how they were raised, and what they experienced along the way. These people aren't responding to circumstances and experiences. They have character issues. They're corrupt from within. And then one of your children or grandchildren switches parties. So, So they're not all racist and they're not all corrupt. Well, of course they're not. So what if we just stopped with all that in the state of Georgia? Be better than that, because you know better than that, and we let our people better than that. And when someone with, and I know this is unrealistic, but we can just dream, can't we? When someone with a microphone starts ginning up the crowd with all that crap, don't clap. Say amen. Don't get caught up in it. Don't approve of divide them up and keep them scared leadership. Just walk out. And better than walk out, walk toward the middle. Because the middle is where the problems are solved. You know that. The messy middle is where the problems are solved, but to walk toward the messy middle, we all have to get out of our Republican and Democrat bucket and walk toward the middle. And that's not popular. But what if in the state of Georgia, we decided, you know what? We're not going to be political. We're going to be leaders. We're not going to be political. We're not going to be strapped into the Republican Democrat seat. And I understand this. I mean, even as a pastor, believe me, I understand. I'm the pastor of a church in Decatur, and I'm the pastor of a church in Forsyth County. It's like two different countries, right? So I understand what I'm talking about, okay? A quick aside. No, I'm not going to tell you that story. Anyway, I'll come back. No, I'll come back some other time. Maybe, if I get invited. So, back to my notes. I'll wrap this up. Walk toward the middle, the messy middle, where problems are solved and experiences are shared. You know what happens in the middle? In the middle, we go, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I always thought. Oh, I always assumed. That's why problems are solved in the middle. Dr. King, I learned this the first time this dawned on me was when I read Letter from a Birmingham Jail, where he talked about, I was going to quote it, but it's such a long quote. He talked about standing in the middle. When you stand in the middle, you get shot at from both sides. But he has the statue on the mall. Just think about that. Jesus understood this. Stood in the middle. Everybody wanted Jesus to be a part of their thing. Everybody still wants Jesus to be a part of their thing, right? The temple conspired against him. The empire conspired against him. There is no Roman Empire. And the temple hasn't been in operation since 40 years after Jesus was crucified. So this is the way forward. This is the way you change the world. And this is your opportunity and our opportunity to make the state of Georgia not just great, I love our state, but to make it amazing. Now, I understand, but not as well as you do, it is hard to raise money in the middle. It's hard to get people angry enough to vote in the middle. It's hard to get people to turn out and vote if you've not made them afraid of their enemy in the middle. It's hard to be, it's hard to do what you do if you don't play this silly game. And I just wish we would stop with, oh no, we're losing. If you don't support me, if you don't do this, we're going to lose. You realize in the world of politics, the goal is to always appear as if you're losing, but not to actually lose. What a terrible way to lead. What if we just stopped with all that? And when we catch each other doing that, we call each other out and we sit in those silly rallies and those things, and people, you just decide, you know what, even though I'm in your party, even though I'll probably vote for you, I'm not buying it. And I'm not going to respect it by clapping for it. Now, to do this requires a lot of personal maturity and personal security to lead from the middle. It will require you to love our state more than you love your party. Do you love the state of Georgia more than you love your party? If not, maybe you should do something else, right? And aren't we supposed to love I know that's why you're here. I know that's why you got into this. Again, division, disagreement, it's always going to be there. But disunity, it's a choice. So you'll know which one you love more, and the people around you will know which one you love more based on your willingness or unwillingness to move out of your partisan corner towards one another in the middle. I love the state of Georgia. You love the state of Georgia. It's great. Let's make it amazing. Heavenly Father, thank you for sending your Son to stand in the middle between us and our sin and our perfect Heavenly Father. So with that as an example, regardless of what we believe or who we believe in or who we worship or pray to, I pray that we would have the courage to move toward each other and to listen and to love our state and to love the people in our state more than we love the categories that we've been strapped with. So give us eyes to see and ears to hear, and then give us the courage, because it'll take courage to follow. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors.
Even though I'm excused, go ahead and.
If you've got a need, you don't have to do it.
No?
Did you vote yes on the
I didn't.
Okay, so you excuse. No, so if you're excused, just leave it alone. Because,
Okay. I
yeah.
would, okay, got me about the time.
Members may greet the chaplain in the South Anteroom.
Anybody who
Yes,
missed,
it.
we put them in the list, but if you're
Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, may those who love us, and those who don't, may God turn their ankles so we will know them by their limp.
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, on the 59th, Ms. Following establishes the order of business in the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Report of standing committees. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1555 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Walensky of the 79th, Bodie of the 62nd, Scott of the 76th, Beverly of the 143rd, and others. Bill being titled, An Act to Amend Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding the Department of Community Affairs.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 1556 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Jones of the 47th, Jones of the 25th, Cantrell of the 22nd. A bill being titled, An Act to provide for a new homestead exemption from Fulton County School District ad valorem taxes.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 1558 by Representative Smyrie of the 135th, Smith of the 134th, Hughley of the 136th, Buckner of the 137th, and Smith of the 133rd. Bill be titled, An Act to Amend an Act providing for a new charter for the countywide government of Columbus, Georgia.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 1559 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, Newton of the 123rd, Gamble of the 15th, Couch of the 50th, Kelly of the 16th. Bill be titled, An Act to Amend Chapter 4, Title 26 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to pharmacists and pharmacies.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1560 by Representative Hughley, the 136th, and Spirey, 135th. Bill be titled, Act to create a new judicial circuit for the state of Georgia.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1561 by Representative Bentley, the 139th. Bill be titled, Act to amend an act providing for the Board of Education for the Macon County School District.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 1562 by Representative Ralston, the 7th. The bill be titled, Act to authorize the assessment and collection of a technology fee by the probate court of Gilmer County.
Intergovernmental
House Bill
Coordination.
1563 by Representative Blackman of the 146th, Holcomb of the 81st, Burns of the 159th, Buckner of the 137th, Stevens of the 164th, and others. Bill being titled, An Act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7 and Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the imposition rate computation exemptions.
Ways and Means.
House Resolution 998 by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, Hawkins, the 27th, Lott of the 122nd, Hutchinson of the 107th, Houston of the 170th. A resolution recognizing the benefits of biomarker testing.
Health and Human Services.
House Resolution 999 by Representative Kirby of the 114th, Smyrie, 135th, Jaspers the 11th, Wiedauer the 119th, Dickey the 140th, and others. A resolution urging the Georgia Department of Transportation to study truck safety.
Transportation.
House Resolution 1000 by Representative Dukes of the 154th, Lewis Ward of the 109th, Thomas the 65th, Holly the 111th, McLaurin of the 51st. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee for Promotion and Assistance of Small Farmers.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
Senate Bill 54 by Representative Harbison of the 15th, Jordan of the 6th, Miller of the 49th, Butler of the 55th, Rahman of the 5th, and others. Bill be titled, Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 9 and Title 19 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding child custody.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Bill 339 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Alvarez the 56th, Dugan of the 30th, Kennedy the 18th, Harbison the 15th, and others. A bill be titled, Act to amend Chapter 3, Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
Senate Bill 357 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Tillery of the 19th, Walker of the 20th, Harbison of the 15th, Red of the 33rd. Bill be titled, Act to amend Code Section 22-295 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to military student transfers.
Education.
Senate Bill 359 by Senator Alvarez the 56th, Robertson the 29th, Miller of the 49th, Dugan of the 30th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, and others. Bill be titled, Act to amend Chapter 1, Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions concerning courts.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 377 by Senator Hatcher of the 50th, Dugan of the 30th, Mullis of the 53rd, Miller of the 49th, Gooch of the 51st. A bill be titled, An Act to amend Titles 20 and 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to education and state government.
Education.
Senate Bill 378 by Senator Alvarez the 56th, Mullis of the 53rd, Kennedy the 18th, Gooch the 51st, Beach of the 21st, and others. Bill be titled, An Act to amend Article 4, Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to reckless conduct.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
Senate Bill 519 by Senator Tippins the 37th, Robertson the 29th, Gooch the 51st, Dugan of the 30th, Kennedy the 18th, and others. Bill be entitled, An Act to amend Article 3, Chapter 18 and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to Solicitors General of State Courts.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 534 by Senator Kennedy, the 18th, Miller, the 49th, Dugan, the 30th, Gooch, the 51st, Mullis, the 53rd, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to state government.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 586 by Senator Gooch, the 51st, Dugan, the 30th, Watson, the 1st, Anna DeBarte, the 31st, Ginder, the 47th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3, Chapter 4, Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to exercise by counties of power to contract.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 612 by Senator Jones, the 10th, and Strickland, the 7th. The bill be titled an act to amend an act to provide a new charter for the city of Stockbridge.
Intergovernmental coordination.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1551 by Representative Camp of the 131st. A bill to amend an act providing for a homestead exemption from Pike County School District ad valorem taxation for certain residents. House Bill 1552 by Representative Jackson of the 64th, Bazemore of the 63rd, Schofield of the 60th, Bruce of the 61st, Hobson of the 153rd, and others. A bill to create the Union City Public Facilities Authority. House Bill 1557 by Representative Gravely of the 67th, Gallett of the 19th, Moptahan of the 17th, Alexander of the 66th. A bill to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Paulding County. Senate Bill 333 by Senator Albers of the 56th, Duggan of the 30th, Hatchett of the 50th, Robertson of the 29th, Gooch of the 51st, and others. A bill relating to non-public post-secondary educational institutions. Senate Bill 562 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, Gooch of the 51st, Hatchett of the 50th, Walker of the 3rd of the 20th, Goodman of the 8th, and others. A bill relating to general authority, duties, and procedure of the Department of Administrative Services. Senate Resolution 565 by Senator Anna DeBarte of the 31st, Duggan of the 30th, Mullis of the 53rd, Huffstetler of the 52nd, and Brass of the 28th. Resolution designating the Northwest Georgia Logistics Corridor as an official logistics growth corridor in Georgia. 3 second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Station of the 104th District, Chairman of the Committee on Judiciary, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary set in consideration the following bills of the House. As instructed me to report same back to the House, the following recommendation. House Bill 1425, due pass by committee substitute, respectfully submitted. Representative Station of the 104th District, Chairman. Representative Jay Collins of the 68th District, Chairman of the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security has had under consideration the following bill of the House. As instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1553, due pass, respectfully submitted. Representative Jay Collins of the 68th District, Chairman. Representative Carson, the 46th District, Chairman of the Committee on Retirement, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, Committee on Retirement has had under consideration the following bills of the House and the Senate and instructed me to report same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 824, due pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 343, due pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted. Representative Carson of the 46th District, Chairman. Representative Smith of the 134th District, Chairman of the Committee on Rules, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, Committee on Rules has had in consideration the following bill of the House, instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1335, due pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted. Representative Smith of the 134th District, Chairman. Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Ways and Means has had under consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 931, due pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1187, due pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1278, due pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted. Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman. Representative Alan Powell of the 32nd District, Chairman of the Committee on Regulated Industries, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, Committee on Regulated Industries has had under consideration the following bills and resolution of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House. The following recommendations. House Bill 1530, due pass by committee substitute. House Resolution 581, due pass by committee substitute. House Resolution 798, due pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted. Representative Alan Powell, 32nd District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
House will come to order. We've got a little business left over from Friday. This House will be in order. On Friday, March 11, the House passed House Bill 1358. The lady from the 58th District served notice of a motion to reconsider the action of the House in giving House Bill 1358 the requisite majority. Now is the time for the lady to pursue the motion if she so desires. She so desires. On the lady's motion that the House reconsider its action in giving House Bill 1358 the requisite majority, all those in favor of reconsideration will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the lady's motion. The ayes are 65, the nays are 94, and the motion is lost, and the House has failed to reconsider its action. On Friday, March 11, the House passed House Bill 1331. The lady from the 58th District served notice of a motion to reconsider the action of the House in giving House Bill 1331 the requisite majority. Now is the time for the lady to pursue the motion if she so desires. Chair recognizes Representative Cannon to see if she desires.
I move.
She moves. On the lady's motion that the House reconsider its action in giving House Bill 1331 a requisite majority, all those in favor of reconsideration will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the lady's motion. The ayes are 69, the nays are 95. The lady's motion is lost, and the House has failed to reconsider its action. Okay, we're going on now to morning orders. Morning orders. Chair is going to allocate 1 minute each to morning orders this morning. 1 minute each. Chair recognizes Chairman Hawkins for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the Hall delegation rises to recognize two fallen Gainesvillians. We have lost two of our greats. First is Dallas Gay. Dallas Gay did a lot for our community and the state. Lost his son to leukemia. Started the Bike-a-thon for St. Jude's Hospital, which is the largest fundraiser for that hospital and for leukemia. He lost a grandson to a prescription drug overdose, and he started many programs that address that. Program Think About It, Partnership for Drug-Free Hall, the Attorney General's We Are Not Going to Take It, the National RX Drug Abuse Program, and developed an opioid overdose training mission, 3 Steps to Save a Life, and Project Dan, which educated 5,000 law enforcement officers to be first responders for opioid overdose. Our second recognition this morning is a good friend of mine, Bruce Birch, songwriter, passed away this past weekend, also from leukemia. Bruce wrote songs for Reba McEntire, Faith Hill, George Jones, T. Graham Brown, songs like Rumor Has It, and It's Your Call. He started the music business school at University of Georgia, Kennesaw State, and Brenau. His reaction to the loss of his friend John Gerard, also a songwriter, he began the John Gerard concert series and raised quite a bit of money for the Good News Clinic, the Boys and Girls Club of Hall County, and the Georgia Mountain Food Bank. If you take just a moment, thank you. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Kendrick for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Today, I want to wish my grandmother a happy 80th birthday. Her name is Maddie Kendrick, and I would be spending all day with her today, but I get to spend it all day and all night down here with you lovely ladies and gentlemen. But we have 4 things in common. The first is that we're lifelong Democrats. The second, that we're both early risers. Many of you know I get up at 4 a.m. every morning. Both of us love dogs, and both of us are very feisty. So if you ever see me acting up, just say, "Calm down, Maddie," and I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representatives Marin and Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, members, and buenos dias a todos. I'm here this morning because I'm going to use Norcross Mayor Greg Newton analogy, and that Norcross High School needs to make room for 2 new trophies. The boys and girls team both won 7A titles at the Macomb Coliseum this past weekend. Norcross wins girls basketball state championship with big 4th quarter in the 7A state championship victory over Harrison, and Norcross tops Bergmar for Class A boys basketball state championship. Congratulations, Big Blue. Go Norcross. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job. Chair recognizes Representative Camp for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here today in celebration of Women's History Month. 100 years ago, 2 legislatures became the first female state representatives in Georgia, Viola Napier of Bibb County and Bessie Kempton Crowell of Fulton County. Representative Napier had been a teacher, but following her husband's death, she went to law school. She later went on to be the first woman to argue a case before the Georgia Supreme Court. The other was Representative Crowell, who was a journalist with the Atlanta Constitution, and she served 3 terms in the House of Representatives. There are many women in this room who have also broken ceilings, so I applaud you today. Thank you.
That completes our morning orders. We are going on now to the rules calendar. Going on to the rules calendar, the clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1481.
House Bill 1481 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-238 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating the registration and licensing of manufacturers, distributors, and dealers, and issuance of manufacturer headquarters, distributor, and dealer plates. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jaspers to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Glad to be the first one up today on this great day. Members, House Bill 1481 is a bill for our used car dealers. You may not know it, but dealer tags that they use are earned based on sales. And all of us know the used car market has been upended and the number of cars available is decreased for purchase, lower, and they're more expensive. Our used car dealers are losing their dealer tags when the need is the most to be able to purchase vehicles for resale and also to test drive cars. This bill will freeze the number that they have to pre-COVID levels and sunsets in 2015. This bill should help them weather the storm of this unusual time in the used car market. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's my bill, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favor for consideration on the first bill today.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1481. The ayes are 165, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1421.
House Bill 1421 by Representative Buckner of the 137th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3, Chapter 8, and Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to hazardous site response, so as to dedicate the proceeds of certain hazardous waste fees to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund. This bill then referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Buckner to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 1421 is a bill to dedicate the state's hazardous waste fees to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund. In 2021, we passed a bill to say that the fees collected should go to the dedicated.
That means the round is over.
So do I get a round two? Okay, so these fees were accidentally omitted from the list when the dedications occurred. So the fees need to be dedicated to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund so that cleanup of hazardous waste sites can happen all across our state. So this bill simply dedicates the fees to the trust fund. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to yield for them. If not, I will yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1421, the ayes are 165. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1478.
House Bill 1478 by Representative Ridley of the 6th to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4333 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating the transfer of vehicle to or from dealer, records to be kept by dealers, electronic filing, and application for title. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Ridley to present the bill.
Well, good morning, everybody, and happy crossover day. This is House Bill 1478. So currently right now, if you're a car dealer, most of them are using a third-party company to transfer their titles electronically. Now, if you know down at your local courthouse, if you buy one from me, you can go and transfer that title down there. So what this has done is this is just saying it's not making anybody do it, but so a lot of the tax commissioners have come to us and they want to be able to process those titles for some of those dealers themselves. And this right here is just giving them that option. If they want to do it, then they can. And that's all the bill does. And Mr. Speaker, I'll stand for any questions if there is any.
You have no questions.
Thank you. Appreciate your vote. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1478, the ayes are 165, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1443.
House Bill 1443 by Representative Gaines, the 117th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 13 of Chapter 2 entitled 26, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to food service establishments, so as to provide that mobile food service establishments that have active permits may operate in the county of origin. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gaines to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Proud to present House Bill 1443 this morning. Our food trucks in this state face, frankly, too much regulation, too much red tape, and too many fees. And so this measure will provide some much necessary cutting red tape and cutting fees for our food truck operators. Currently, food truck owners have to get the health inspection permit in every single county they operate in. This would allow for one statewide permit that, again, will save them time, money, and resources, allow them to interact with customers instead of with the government. Everybody came together on this measure. We worked with the Department of Public Health, the Georgia Restaurant Association, ACCG, and believe we have a bill that everybody agrees on. Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
You have some questions if you care to yield.
I'll yield for a couple, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, is it not true that back in 2012, one time when I was on the City Council, we were working hard in Smyrna to build what has ultimately become a very successful weekly food truck event in the warm weather months? And one of the first things we realized was what a hardship and a barrier to entry it was to the Cobb market, for example, when you had a food truck that was licensed in Fulton or licensed in Gwinnett. And when we think about how tight our metro communities are, I think this is going to be is it not true that I think this is going to be a fantastic bill to help these small businesses?
Well, thank you for the question. I believe that to be true and believe this will certainly help food trucks in the metro area and across this state. And thank you for your co-sponsorship on the measure.
Do you further yield?
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Momtahan to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Is it not true that in Paulding County this has been a big issue, and that I thank you for carrying this piece of legislation that will help so many small business owners in Paulding County?
Well, thank you, and I believe that to be true, and believe this certainly will help small businesses across our state.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Speaker,
Do you further yield?
I'll yield for one more.
Chair recognizes Representative Mallow to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Does this bill allow for the gentleman to bring food trucks from Athens to Savannah?
Well, absolutely. It'll make it easier for our food trucks, the great food trucks we have in Athens, to come down to the great city of Savannah.
Does the gentleman further yield?
I will.
Would you be riding on one of the food trucks coming from Athens to Savannah?
I will. Be happy to. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well and ask for the body's favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Carter rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true if the vendor receives their license in one county and they go to another county, will the other county not be able to have any permitting?
That would really should have been directed to the author of the bill.
I understand. I had my light checked.
What purpose does Representative Carpenter rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that we have statewide food service standards that should be able to cross jurisdictional lines so that companies can flourish in the state of Georgia?
I would agree. What purpose does Representative Hutchinson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Has anyone considered just getting rid of the permits completely, or can we do that in 2025?
I can't answer that question. I have no knowledge. All right, final parliamentary inquiry. What purpose does Representative Sharper rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that being that all of the trucks are inspected by the Department of Health, Environmental Department, that it should be some consistency and it should flow smoothly so we can help these small businesses?
That is my understanding. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1443, the ayes are 171, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 203.
House Bill 203 by Representative Petrie. Bill 166 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4286 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to special license plates promoting or supporting certain worthy agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations with proceeds dispersed to the general fund. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Petrie to present the bill.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring you today House Bill 203. I'm really excited to tell you about this bill because it creates a specialty license plate that I'm going to show you right now, the most beautiful license plate we will have going forward in the state. The iconic symbol of the Georgia coast, the Tybee Island Lighthouse. This bill will help to fund those that buy it. We've already pre-sold all the necessary tags in this bill. Proceeds from this bill and from buying these tags will help maintain the Tybee Island Historical Society, which maintains the lighthouse. And Mr. Speaker, I doubt there's any questions. It's pretty simple, so I yield the well.
Actually, you do have a number of questions.
Well, sounds like I'll take one, Mr. Speaker. Yeah.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to your left for a question.
Should have known.
Will the gentleman yield?
I will indeed.
All right, sir. Is it not true that years ago the most famous battle cry in Georgia was "I will campaign from the Rayburn Gap to the Tybee Lighthouse"? Is that not so?
I believe that's true. So that was before my time, but I've heard that.
Well, is it not true that I know you're rather young, but is it not further true that that's the first visual aid I've seen from the well since the gentleman from Alma, Representative Tommy Smith?
Yeah, that could well be true, sir. I just felt like this thing is so beautiful, everybody needed to have a chance to see it. I'm sure you're all going to want one.
Do you yield for one more question?
I have a feeling I will because I think I know where it's coming from, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the distinguished representative from the 179th District, Chairman Hogan, to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do indeed.
Did I hear you right saying that lighthouse was more beautiful than St. Simon's Lighthouse?
Mr. Chairman, at risk of losing your vote and having one no vote, I have to tell you that everyone knows that the Tybee Island Lighthouse is so much more beautiful than the lighthouse on St. Simon.
Does the gentleman further yield?
One last time, my friend.
Because of that comment, I'm probably going to vote against it.
Yeah. Well, just remember you co-sponsored this bill, Mr. Chairman. Just remember. Don't forget. And happy birthday.
You further yield?
Happy birthday.
Yeah, you further yield?
I further yield, sir.
You always do things you regret.
Yeah, well, Well, listen, did you, I wonder if the chairman regrets. My understanding is you helped build this thing, Mr. Chairman. So, maybe you regret that.
The gentleman further yield.
You know what? I do, Mr. Chairman.
If I had anything to do with that, I do regret it.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Hill rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true if it wasn't for this lighthouse, this ship would not be here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure if you had volunteered, the gentleman would have let you sing during the presentation of the bill. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 203, the ayes are 170, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 923.
House Bill 923 by Representative Oliver, the 82nd, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 3662 5 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to directors, officers, compensation, adoption of bylaws, delegation of powers and duties, and conflicts of interests, so as to provide enforcement procedures for ethics code violations of authority members. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Oliver to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring for your favorable consideration House Bill 923, which addresses two moderate issues for the development authorities across Georgia. I want to thank the chairman of the Government Affairs Committee and many members of the committee who for the last 2 years have had an in-depth discussion about the 700 development authorities across Georgia and the extent to which they operate positively, independently for economic development. But in my district and in many districts across Georgia, there are issues of conflict among the development authorities, and there are other issues of certain management. They are not governed by anybody. They are truly independent entities. A long list of options that we considered in the committee have brought forward to you two moderate reform issues that are supported by the Georgia Economic Development Association, the ACCG, and the Georgia Municipal Association. 4 counties of Georgia, based on an act from 1980, have opportunity to grant per diems to development authority members, and we're putting a cap on that per diem based on an abuse of one of our authority, cap that will be the same as ours in the General Assembly. The second issue is to grant jurisdiction to the State Ethics Commission to hear and investigate potential complaints for ethical violations for development authority members across Georgia. I ask for your favorable consideration, and if there are no questions, I yield the well.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 923, the ayes are 172, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1053.
House Bill 1053 by Representative Stevens and the 164th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the imposition rate, computation, exemptions, and credits for state income tax. This bill having referred to the Committee on Creative Arts and Entertainment. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Before I recognize the author, the clerk's office has reminded me to let you know that they're on this supplemental calendar. We're working off it as well as the calendar that was published for today. The bills are on the carts over here to the left of the podium and in the back, in the hallway, in the back of the chamber. Is that it? So everybody will know where the bills are and can go get them and read them. Chair recognizes Chairman Ron Stevens to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring you today House Bill 1053, which is an extension of the post-production film tax credit, if you will. Some of you may remember, and you were here in 2008 whenever we really got on board to steal an industry, if you will, from California, and that was the film industry. We are now #1 in the world. Thank you for getting us there and for creating these amazing jobs that keeps your children and grandchildren who want to work in the industry here in Georgia. This post-production tax credit is an extension of that Governor Deal then built on this film incentive back in 2017, and that has got us where it is today. This only extends an additional 5 years, but the most important thing that this bill does is on the back of this bill, and we've been searching for a long time to get a better bang for the buck, if you will, for the taxpayer on this film production. So henceforth, if you accept the film tax credit, or if you're a writer or post-production, once this bill goes into effect, as a condition of accepting this tax credit, we, the taxpayers of the state of Georgia, in perpetuity, will receive an income tax off of those royalty checks. We've never been able to get to door number 3, ladies and gentlemen, until today, and I hope you'll vote yes on this bill. Let's vote yes for the taxpayers and keep this industry thriving. Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I'll yield the well.
Do you yield for questions?
I'll yield for a couple.
Chair recognizes Chairman Houston to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I cannot remember. Are these tax credits transferable?
Yes, ma'am. This one up to 3 years.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you yield for one more?
One more.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to your right for a question.
Does gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
What is the estimated value of these royalties for perpetuity? Because that, to me, that's an interesting component. I've got some concerns about the size of the program and how it weighs out versus other priorities, but that royalty component could be a real inducement. How much do we think that's going to be over time? Do we have any estimates for that?
It's going to be massive, and of course, we've never really run the numbers on this, but consider whenever you hit the jackpot, that's kind of another bill that we'll talk about. Whenever you hit the jackpot on this stuff, for example, once you go into syndication, that's where the real money is. And keep in mind, if you accept this incentive as a tax incentive for on a tax credit, this is forever. So those royalty checks that come out will be sometimes large, especially if those programs, one that's done here in Georgia is Family Feud. If that hits syndication, and I think you can expect it, those checks are from everybody from the writers all the way through to the post-production.
Jim, and further yield?
Yes, sir.
So just for clarity then, so the income that's paid out during their production of during the productions, that's where the tax credit applies. There'll be no tax credit moving forward for the royalties. That's going to get paid. We will receive those at the full income tax rate in full for perpetuity, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thanks.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask you for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative Williamson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true, Mr. Speaker, that I've been pretty consistent critic of film tax credits, but given the fact that we will be receiving income taxes on these participants in these deals that taxpayers of Georgia have been subsidizing, that I'm in favor of this bill? Is that not true?
If the gentleman so states, what purpose does Chairman Carson rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Rule 133, I ask to be excused from this vote.
The gentleman has that right, and the record will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Holland rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Rule 133, I also ask to be excused from this
Lady
vote.
has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Chairman Todd Jones rise?
Pursuant to Rule 133, I'd like to be excused from this vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will reflect that. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1053. The ayes are 140. The nays are 25. This bill, having received a requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1404.
House Bill 1404 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia entitled relating to medical assistance generally, so as to direct the Department of Community Health to submit a waiver request for the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Pruitt to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, House Bill 1404 is a simple bill that just mandates that DCH apply for a federal waiver regarding Medicare and Medicaid so as to make those services by IMDs, which are institutions for mental disease, also known as like a private psychiatric hospital, that those facilities can receive federal funding through Medicaid for the services rendered. We have a couple situations where a lot of those IMDs have emergency rooms within them. People check into those emergency rooms and get long-term care through that, and those facilities are not able to seek compensation through Medicaid for the services rendered. So it'll allow that to happen. There are 30 states now that have already done this, and there's about 6 more already in the process, going through this process. So we're a little late to the game on this, but it'll close a much-needed gap and allow mental health care for a lot of Georgians. That's the bill.
You yield for any questions?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Watson to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is this not one of the issues that we talked in some of our rural development councils as we met this past summer and definitely needed to happen?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Much bit of need for that, but also it'll increase some of the access as well to mental health care facilities for Georgians. Absolutely, yes, sir.
Very good bill. Thank you for bringing
yes, sir.
this.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Thank you, sir. I yield you well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Bruce rise? He waves. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1404. The ayes are 167. The nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1180.
House Bill 1180 by Representative Corbett of the 174th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 8 of Title 50 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to regional commissions so as to revise provisions regarding the appointment of non-public members to the regional commission councils. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Watson to present the bill.
Mr. Speaker, members, I do bring before you HB 1180. This is dealing with our regional commissions. We're just reducing some of the membership within these commissions. They're very large bodies, and we're allowing them to elect an executive board within that group to handle the day-to-day financial aspects of the regional commissions and their workload. We're also requiring them to provide us with some reporting and some oversight. They currently do all of this. They submit some to the feds and they submit some to DCA, but we're wanting them to submit some of that to us here in the General Assembly, and that's all we're doing in the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Chairman Setzler rise? He waves. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1180. The ayes are 172, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1297.
House Bill 1297 by Representative Gamble, the 15th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 32 and Title 33 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to property insurances to provide an insurance premium discount or reduction for home or commercial property owners who build a new home or commercial property. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Gamble to present the bill.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I rise today in support of House Bill 1297. Very succinctly, it is a voluntary insurance program that will lower insurance rates for consumers who build or retrofit their home or business to what's called a fortified standard. They have to get documentation as well by a certified inspector who will inspect the home as fortified, and they're certified by the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. It doesn't matter if it's concrete, wood, or steel, but if you decide to build to the fortified standard, it will require the insurance companies to recognize and honor the fortified standard and then determine on their own whether or not they would provide any incentive for you building to that standard. That's pretty much the bill and what it does. Happy to entertain any questions.
You have a question or two if you care to yield.
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Fry to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield to my seat, mate and friend.
I appreciate you bringing this bill. Isn't it true that we have been working on this for a good 18 months to 2 years, and that this bill will be an opportunity for folks to save money on their home insurance in the state of Georgia?
Absolutely. This will help to lower insurance costs in inflammatory times, and I think that's something that we all ought to be interested in.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, with that, I'm happy to take any more questions.
You further yield? Is that what you're saying?
I will yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield?
I yield.
I wanted to thank you for this bill. I also wanted to ask about the Zone 3 HUD requirements that can be included in this, if you could just speak to what that means.
You know, this is going to apply to residential homes and businesses if applicable. It can be retrofit or it can be new construction. But again, that is up to the insurance companies to work with the individual owners as to whether or not that applies. I'm happy to talk to you offline about your particular question, but I don't believe that that applies to this legislation that we have before us today. With that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for this body's favorable consideration, and I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1297, the ayes are 174, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1330.
House Bill 1330 by Representative Smyre, the 135th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7, and Title 48 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition rate computation exemptions and credits from state income tax. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes the Dean of this House, Dean Calvin Smyre, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I
I'm happy to be on the floor today, and this is my last crossover. But House Bill 1330 is the Georgia Music and Theater and Job Recovery Act, and I want to thank the members of this House for considering this piece of legislation. I'm going to thank my co-sponsors as well, Chairman Ron Stevens and Chairman Casey Carpenter and Floor Leader Josh Bonner and others that have been supporting this legislation. Because in 2017 we passed the Georgia Music Investment Act by a vote of 157, and what this bill is going to do is designed to help retain and sustain the jobs that were created by that industry. One thing that we did change, and I heard it was asked earlier, we took transferability out of this bill, and it is not in here, and then we added the provision that Chairman Stevens alluded to earlier in terms of the royalties, and that any royalties derived from this bill would be as taxable income. But one of the major issues that we did was increase the tax credit. This is not a new tax credit, but we did increase the tax credit from 15 to 30% for live music rehearsals and tour organizations. And the major part of this bill was in House Bill 718, and what we did was those tour rehearsals and organizational plays and things of that nature that are in performing arts centers like the one in Columbus, we lowered the threshold, which is one of the main components of this bill, from $500,000, $500,000 to $100,000, so that be more compatible for Augusta, for the Savannahs, for the Macons, for the Columbus, Georgia, to have these small theaters for them to be able to benefit under this tax credit. It also lowered the recorded music in a studio from $250,000 to $50,000, and recorded music scored for film and TV from $100,000 to $50,000. This is a great bill for the state of Georgia in terms of creating more jobs and helping out the music industry. We want the music industry to be on the same par as the film industry, and which has been very, very beneficial to the state of Georgia. And also it makes Georgia more competitive with Tennessee, Oklahoma, and other states that have great music industries. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask your favorite consideration for House Bill 1330. Any questions, I'd be happy to entertain.
You have a few questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Bentley to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that as a little girl I read about a man named Calvin Smyrie?
The lady might know what she speaks, but she may not know. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it not further true that this representative meant as a younger girl she read of Representative Calvin Smyrie, and she's been very honored to serve with Calvin Smyrie with the Fort Valley State University Foundation Board, as well as in this Georgia House of Representatives. And for that reason, this representative will be voting for House Bill 1330. Is that not true, Mr. Representative?
Thank you very much, Representative. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. One
Chair,
more.
Chair recognizes Representative Meeks to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I yield.
Just to make sure I did understand you correct, we did say in this piece of legislation that the tax credit is not transferable, correct?
The gentleman is correct.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. It was originally in the bill, but the wisdom of the Ways and Means Committee, and I want to thank Chairman Blackman and Chairman Williamson for working with me. I served on Ways and Means. My 5th year in the House, I was appointed to the Ways and Means Committee, and I know the work that they do. And I was always told that you should see how we raise the money before you see how we spend it. And so that was my opportunity to serve in the Ways Committee before going on the Appropriations Committee.
Do you further yield?
One more, Mr. Speaker, and then I know we got a long, long day.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carpenter to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
I'm way in the back.
Oh.
Low Clout Carpenter all the way in the back.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Is it
Chairman.
not true that it's been a a privilege of mine to work with you on this legislation and watch you take advice from so many people and input on a bill, all while representing the people of Columbus and your constituents.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that very much, and I look forward to working with you and the other members, and appreciate your leadership as chairman of the Creative Entertainment Committee.
Thank you for your class.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask your favorable consideration of House Bill 1330. Thank you very much.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Erica Thomas rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this bill will help to bring more business in the music industry to the state of Georgia, where the citizens will be able to benefit from this as well?
I am sure the lady has researched that and believes that to be true. What purpose does Representative Cannon rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this bill is helpful during Music in Our Schools Month to getting more of an economic engine for music entrepreneurs in our state?
If the lady so states, what purpose does Representative Prince rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it possible that this could be the last bill that the Dean of the House introduces and passes out of this House?
No, he says he has another one. He always has a bill that he can find. All right. One more. What purpose does Representative Holly rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Sir, is it not true that quite possibly the sponsor of this bill is dropping this because finally when he leaves, he'll be able to pursue that R&B album he meant to put together?
If that happens, I promise you I'll be the first in line to buy it. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1330, the ayes are 146, the nays are 26. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1522.
House Bill 1522 by Representative Ridley the Sixth, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 10-1-831 of the Official Code of Georgia entitled relating to required information for operators of beauty pageants, so as to require certain additional information be provided to the pageant and beauty contestants before accepting a fee. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Ridley, I'm curious, is the regulation of beauty pageants, is that a big issue in Chatsworth? So we're going to find out how big an issue it is at Chatsworth, right? Chair recognizes Representative Ridley to present the bill.
Well, good morning again, everybody. Congratulations to being here for the first annual beauty pageant cleanup bill. Don't ever say you won't do anything here, because you'll end up doing it. This bill, if you look on line 12 and 13, it's real difficult. They're adding required that beauty pageants have an internet website and an email address. Now, this does not have anything to do with civic organizations. That this is actual companies, beauty pageant companies. And that's all the bill does. And I'm sure that there's some great questions out there, Mr. Speaker. And at this time, I'll take
You
it.
didn't expect to not have questions, did you?
No, sir. I've been up all night thinking about it.
You might want to stop right there.
No. Trust me,
All
y'all
right.
want me to.
Do
Anyway.
you yield for questions?
Yes, sir. I'll yield for one.
Chair recognizes Representative Hagan to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
I'm just wondering if your purpose for bringing this bill was from any traumatic experience that you had in a beauty pageant, and if so, would you share that story with us?
Well, I know you may find it hard to believe, but I never won one. And like I told Chairman Smith this morning in the rules, it's not hard for me to make you look good if you stand beside me, so anybody could win. Mr. Speaker, if there's
Do
no
you
other
further
questions.
yield?
Oh, gosh. Yes, sir. I'll yield for one.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowitz to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, you're way over there.
Is it not true that once you did indeed win $10 for second prize in a beauty contest during a game of Monopoly?
That would be true. I think that was right after you got me out of jail for 200.
Do not pass go.
Mr. Speaker, if there's no other questions about this legislation, I know the hour is early. It's time for lunch, and I'll take a bow now. I vote for your, consider this bill. Whatever, I'm out.
A compelling and powerful presentation. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Mary Frances Williams rise?
Parliamentary
State
inquiry.
your inquiry.
Is it not true, Mr. Speaker, that I just cannot resist saying to Representative Ridley, bless your heart?
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1522, the ayes are 166, the nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1496.
House Bill 1496 by Representative Gullett of the 19th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3, Title 4 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to livestock running at large so as to authorize the sheriff impounding a livestock running at large to donate the livestock to an animal rescue organization. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What a fun one to follow up. House Bill 1496 will allow a sheriff in possession of impounded or unclaimed livestock to donate the animal to a rescue group or an individual, in addition to being able to auction it or euthanize it. That's all this bill does. Happy to answer any questions.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. That's it.
You have no questions?
I yield the will. Thank you so much.
Is there, wait a minute. Is that a question? You do have a question. Do you yield?
Let's do that. Yes, sir. I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Donahue for a question to your left.
My good friend, do you will yield?
Do I wield?
Do you will the yield?
Whew. I will wield the yield to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Did not we hear this in committee 4 or 5 times?
No, sir, not this bill. We didn't, that I'm aware of. We heard it one time.
Okay. This wasn't about the pot-bellied pig?
This is about, pot-bellied pig is a big part of this. Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was the correct bill. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
I yield the will. Thank you, guys.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1496, the ayes are 174, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1435.
House Bill 1435 by Representative Martin of the 49th and others to be entitled an act to amend subpart 2A of Part 3 of Article 7, Chapter 3, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the needs-based financial aid program so as to include eligibility for students with a financial aid gap. This bill having referred to the Committee on Higher Education, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You were looking up at the clock there. I didn't know how quick I needed to be. Now I see what's going on up there. Yes, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me attention today to bring you a bill I think can be very important across the state of Georgia. I want to thank the University System of Georgia, the Technical College System, and Georgia Student Finance for working with us to put this together, in addition to Governor Kemp and his office. Georgia State University does a great job with this, Valdosta State does, and a number of other institutions. What we seek to do in this legislation is to help eligible students who have a financial gap, a small gap to get across the finish line, to finish their certificate or their degree program with a grant of up to $2,500. We all know that in this economy and in economies past, just getting to finish allows people to get into the economy and pay back any other debt they have. And failing to do that, it leaves them in a position that is probably the worst possible thing, that is with college debt and without the degree or without the certification. This is subject to appropriations, but we've talked to the governor's office and we've identified money that can travel in the next budget to provide for this program up to $10 million. Again, this is for eligible students. One of the requirements I'd been asked, and I want to highlight, is they would all have to complete the federal student aid form to make sure that they had exhausted other opportunities for FAFSA funding. We left some of that on the table in this past year. Our students do that, so we're going to do a better job of showing them access to that. Another important thing to note here is all of our institutions and HOPE-eligible private college, not-for-profit institutions are part of this program, and it can be customized to each individual student population. So this enables each university to look at their student population and provides the needs necessary. Now, given that, we will need to fine-tune that, so I draw your attention to lines 87 through 92, which allows the commission to seek data and provide reporting back to this body and to the Senate as we go forward. And I would note that this is being sunset on June 30th, 2025. If it's working, clearly the body would extend it, but if it's not, we want to refine it and make it better. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask the House's favorable consideration. I think this is a big step for Georgia as this body, the governor's office, and hopefully our friends in the Senate can make a commitment to help people across the finish line, help our students get that certification and that degree and become part of our Georgia economy. If there are questions, I'll try to answer them.
Do you yield for a question?
I do, yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative McLeod to your left for a question.
Yes, sir.
Does the gentleman yield?
Absolutely.
So right now, the money that's allocated in this legislation, you would be looking at just about roughly how many students after they've exhausted FAFSA, how many students are you thinking that we would be able to cover under this?
Well, my math would say if everybody used the $2,500, 10 million would go 4,000. Is that, am I right on the math? And that is if everyone needed the full 2,500. We're hearing stories from students that they're in the last semester and something, is crazy. They lose their daycare or something that, and what this would do is pay their tuition so they could use the money to pay their daycare. To be clear, the money in this grant goes to the institution, not to the student. So it would pay the tuition so then they could take care of other things. But it could help as many as 4,000. It could help twice that many if the needs were smaller.
I really want to thank you for bringing this bill.
Mr. Speaker, if there are no further questions.
You do have one more, but
yes,
it's
sir.
up to you.
Yes, sir. Well, if this is an important measure, if it's a question about the technical issues in the bill, I want to make sure I answer it. Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dubnik to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Chairman, could you explain how this $10 million would be allocated to the 26 USG institutions in our technical college system?
I thank the gentleman for his question. We have left that open to student finance, to the technical college system, and to the university. The idea being that it would be allocated based on the students' needs-based in their, let me say this, needs-based and with a gap needed into their student population. But we're still working on that, to be honest. This has to be, and I'm a very objective person in answering your question. We like to send things out of here with specific rules and regulations. This is a place where we have to be flexible we have to be flexible and trust in our institutions and the counselors at these colleges to get this in the right spot and to put the money there. That's why we have the reporting, and that's why we have the sunset, so that we can fact check it in 3 years and refine it and make it better. But the idea is it would be divided amongst the institutions based on their student population and need. Thank the gentleman for the question. With that, I'll yield the well and ask for the House favorable consideration on HB 1435.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have another member who wishes to speak to the bill. The chair recognizes Representative Stacey Evans to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. I rise in enthusiastic support for House Bill 1435. I wholeheartedly support the bill and I'm very excited that we get a chance to vote on it today. Higher education changes lives. It's as simple as that. So the more kids that we can get into our higher education system, the better that they're going to be, the better their families are going to be, the next generations in our whole state. So this is a wonderful day. I also wanted to just point out, this makes good business sense. Every year, one of the largest expenditures we make is to education generally, and also specifically to our higher education system. So we are paying part of what gets our students through our higher education system. And the idea that $500, $1,000, or $2,500 might keep somebody from graduating after they've already spent 4 years investing, and we've already spent 4 years investing, is a tragedy, because they lose their investment and so do we, and the state never benefits from that money that we've already spent. So I hope you'll join me in an enthusiastic yes vote for House Bill 1435. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1435, the ayes are 171, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1461.
House Bill 1461 by Representative Anderson of the 10th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 36 and Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating to annexation of territory, so as to revise provisions related to dispute resolution. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Anderson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring before you today House Bill 1461. The last time I was in the well, I had mentioned the study committee we did out of session on annexation and cityhood, and this is another bill out of that. This bill implements many of the recommendations that came out of our study committee and has substantive improvements to the process. This is also possibly the only annexation-related bill with substantive improvements that you'll see come through here that has both GMA and ACCG support. House Bill 1461 implements recommendations from the Study Committee on Annexation and Cityhood regarding timelines, deadlines, delivery methods for reporting arbitration panel results, access to court reporters and hearing officers, allow virtual and teleconference meetings, equally sharing arbitration costs, reporting of arbitration and agreement results, and extending the binding time for panel-imposed conditions. I would ask for your favorable consideration, and will yield for any questions if there are some.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1461, the ayes are 172, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1479.
House Bill 1479 by Representative Corbett of the 174th and others to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 1 of Chapter 6 entitled 12 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the practice of professional forestry so as to provide that the State Board of Registration for Foresters is an independent state agency attached to the State Forestry Commission for administrative purposes only. This bill having referred to the Committee on Natural Resources and Environment, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Corbett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I bring before you House Bill 1479. Presently, the Georgia Board of Registration for Foresters resides with the Secretary of State's office under the Professional License Board. The board serves as the professional license body for foresters. It's charged with protecting the public health, safety, and welfare by regulating those who engage in the practice of professional forestry. Many foresters have expressed deep frustration with the lack of responsiveness, support, and communication from the board staff, and the low level of support provided by the board staff in addressing and investigating complaints lodged to the board. These issues are of concern as it clearly creates the issue of public welfare. So what we're doing with 1479, we would relocate the operation, function, and revenue generated by the Georgia Board of Registration for Foresters from the Georgia Secretary of State's Professional Licensing Board to the Forestry Commission. I have spoken with Tim Lauermore, our forestry director. He is confident that they have the knowledge and the capacity to successfully implement what's in 1479, and I would ask for everybody's favorable consideration because it's definitely a better fit and we'll be better served. So I'll yield for any questions if there are any, Mr. Speaker. Or maybe not. You good?
You have no questions?
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1479. The ayes are 174, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1484.
House Bill 1484 by Representative Hawkins, the 27th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to medical assistance generally so as to provide for a 3-year pilot program to provide coverage for the diagnosis and treatment of pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hawkins to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you just heard, this bill addresses a serious condition that we have been seeing in our children of Georgia. Our Committee on Health and Human Services over the years have been hearing testimony. In fact, in 2019, we had a study committee on this. Saw a lot of mothers and children come in and testify. This bill provides coverage for diagnosis and treatment of up to 100 children through the State Health Benefit Plan for PANS, which is a pediatric autoimmune neuropsychotic disorder associated also sometimes with strep infections. We heard very good testimony from a number of experts. Dr. Susan Suedo from the National Institute of Mental Health on this issue. And we have the opportunity to lead the nation in the research and treatment of this disease, so I would ask your favorable consideration, and if there's no questions, I will yield the will.
You have no questions. Gentleman has yielded the will. Chair recognizes Representative Bennett to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I rise in enthusiastic support for this bill. PANS and PANDAS has been a curiosity. However, it is an opportunity for Georgia to be a leader in diagnosis and treatment, as the chairman has said. There are so many thousands and thousands of people and families suffering in Georgia today because it goes without diagnosis and therefore it delays treatment. This disease can sometimes mimic as a mental health disorder, presenting itself with children and with OCD, tics, eating disorders, and sometimes it even leads to suicide. So I would ask your favorable support, and I want to thank the chairman, Chairman Harkins, I want to thank Chairman Gravely, I want to thank Chairman Cooper for their enthusiastic support of this condition called PANS and PANDAS, and you can always remember the panda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Moore to speak to the bill.
Good evening, colleagues. I know today is long, so I will make my comments short. I just wanted to put a face to this little known disease that we're talking about today. If you look at the board, this is my beautiful niece, Alexis, from Roswell, Georgia, who during the past 2 years developed PANS, otherwise known as pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome. In 6 months' time, Alexis has had 10 hospital visits, 8 hospital admissions, 50 doctor visits. She had to be withdrawn from school, 2 lumbar punctures, over 90 vials of blood taken, $80,000 in out-of-pocket costs. You see, a few years ago, Alexis started experiencing OCD, anxiety, and depression. At age 14, almost overnight, she began to develop motor tics and verbal tics, much like Tourette's. Almost all of her doctors kept blaming it on anxiety and refused to even do blood work, despite her mother's insistence on it being PANS. When Alexis began to exhibit coprolalia, which is a word I had to look up, it means motor tics of profanity, the family could not leave the house with her out of fear of what she might say. She had punching tics that almost broke her hand and kicking tics that almost broke her toes. One day she woke up dyslexic and dysgraphic. She began experiencing seizures, almost 1 per minute, for up to 12 hours. The medical specialists did not recognize these symptoms and had no answers. Her mother risked being dismissed by doctors at a certain children's medical facility if she even mentioned PANS. Alexis had active infections in her body that crossed her blood-brain barrier. There's plenty of data to show that these same infections can cause severe damage to the brain and central nervous system. Yet doctors dismissed her illness to her face, telling Alexis that it was all in her head. Simple viruses like strep, herpes, mono, parvo, and many others can cross the blood-brain barrier, causing inflammation of parts of the brain. Her body gets confused and attacks her brain when she gets exposed to viruses. Doctors now acknowledge that COVID can cause this as well. It is time for PANS to be widely accepted, and that this has been happening with other infections for years. However, Alexis is lucky her family had the financial resources to keep fighting. They found a doctor who specializes in PANS. The treatment for PANS cost them $15,000 a month. And after 3 treatments, Alexis no longer had anxiety, depression, OCD, dyslexia, or dysgraphia. 8 months later, she has not had a seizure in 3 months. It is incredibly important that we fight for medical communities to recognize PANS as a legitimate disease so that insurance companies will begin to pay for the treatments of this, much like my beautiful niece Alexis had to undergo. So thank you for supporting this bill. Thank you for the chairman for bringing it, and thank you all for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Maynor rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that when I read once you get COVID, one of the possibilities is getting PANS, and that's exactly why I keep wearing my mask, because I don't want it?
If the lady so states, I know she's knowledgeable about those issues. What purpose does Representative Bennett rise?
Parliamentary
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that when I thanked those supporters of the bill, I neglected to thank our chairman, Chairman Smith, who had personal, our Rules Committee chairman, who has a personal interest in PANS? Thank you. Is it?
Thank you for doing that. What purpose does Representative Dreyer rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that the first time we did a morning order on PANS and PANDAS about 3 years ago, the former Rules Chair, Chairman Meadows, came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, my family's been affected by that. Thank you for bringing this issue.
I believe that to be correct. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1484, the ayes are 172, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1528.
House Bill 1528 by Representative Montana the 17th and others be titled Act to amend Article 14 of Chapter 1 and Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to secondary metal recycles so as to provide that it shall be illegal for certain persons to purchase, possess, obtain, or sell, or attempt to purchase, possess, obtain, or sell detached catalytic converters. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Momdahan to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, today I bring before you House Bill 1528. House Bill 1528 creates new penalties for criminals that are stealing catalytic converters off of vehicles by laying under the vehicle and using a sawzall to remove the catalytic converter. The process to steal a catalytic converter can just take mere minutes. The reason for the theft is to scrap the metal for the precious metals that are inside of these catalytic converters. Like I said, the thief will saw them off in a grocery store, mall, or even a Home Depot parking lot, and They take dozens of these catalytic converters to out-of-state recyclers that don't have as tough of as laws as the state of Georgia has, and they get anywhere between $25 to $100 for these catalytic converters. The cost to the insurance companies and to consumers can be $2,000, $3,000, or even $4,000 for each one of these converters. In fact, just this week, a member of this body has had their catalytic converter stolen off of their vehicle in the parking lot at their apartment. So it's a big issue. It's something that we need to address. This bill will stack charges for each converter that the criminal has in their possession and allows law enforcement post-conviction forfeiture if their property was used to commit the crime. Mr. Speaker, that is House Bill 1528, and I'm happy to take one question because I know I stand between us and lunch.
Did you yield?
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Pruitt for a question to your right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman yield.
I yield.
Yes, sir. Does this will this bill not help me in that situation last night or this yesterday morning when I woke and found that my Toyota Tundra sounded like a Harley Davidson when I went to start it, and after further inspection, I found that my catalytic converter had been sawed off overnight, and I took it to the dealership, and the Toyota dealership said it's about $4,500 to repair that. And additionally, the service department said that they experience this about 15 to 20 times a month just at that one Toyota dealership. So this is probably a rampant across the state. Thank you for bringing it.
That's right. This bill would address that problem. It's rampant not only in Metro Atlanta, but all across our great state. Mr. Speaker, with that, I'm going to yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does the minority caucus whip Representative Wilkerson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the way this bill is currently written, that if someone steals a catalytic converter, they can seize the car that was used? However, if they steal the whole car, then they cannot seize the car that was used. Is that accurate, the way the bill is currently written?
I'm not sure I followed you, but I'm sure the members of the body did. You were a little too poetic for me there, Representative. What purpose does Representative McLaurin rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that we already have laws on the books that make felony theft over $1,500, like I said, a felony? And isn't it true that there's no evidence that stacking offenses and building in more penalties, despite the harms that these crimes cause, will do anything substantively to address the underlying causes of the crimes? Is that not true, Mr. Speaker?
Well, I think reasonable people can reach different conclusions on that issue. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1528, the ayes are 134. The nays are 37. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Rules Committee for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Rules Committee will meet at 2 o'clock today in room 341. 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark for an announcement. She waves. Chair recognizes Chairman Billy Mitchell for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democratic Caucus will meet live in room 216 where lunch will be served. Once again, that's 216 upon adjournment here, upon the break for lunch and a meeting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, members, there will be students here from the Atlanta University Center commemorating the 62nd anniversary of the AUC sit-in about economic justice. I would just ask that you reach out and say hello to some of these talented young people who will be here today around 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
That completes our announcements. This House will be in recess for lunch until 2:15. 2:15.